Welcome back to another episode of AP Bassin. I'm Alex. This is probably a little bit old school for you guys, maybe one might say, like you're sitting down talking. Most of your videos now are just random clips put together. Well, guys, I was part of something. I don't know how I got involved in this. Usually the poo-poo shows, I'm trying to avoid the poo-poo shows, I'm more of a hanging out in my cave until I feel like it's the spawn is on or something, or I'm trying to spawn, like trying to make some offsprings. Like I'm in the cave, waiting for the spawn, or trying to spawn, even if it's not spawning time. We're going to get serious here. If you guys have watched or you guys have been on the internet, you've seen this tournament organization called Dual Threat Fishing. And Dual Threat Fishing was a team tournament. In the beginning, it was $5,000 entry fee for each tournament. There was a total of 6 tournaments, and then if you qualified, you got to go to the 7th tournament, which was their championship series. And essentially, it was $30,000 entry fee. In the beginning, there's a lot of interesting aspects of this, okay? Because what really happened? I'm still trying to figure that out, and I think a lot of things are going to come out here. The only thing I want to do is remain skeptical. I'm always remained skeptical the whole time, other than the fact that I trusted the guy who's being called the scammer. And then maybe this is going to come off like I'm mad that I trusted this guy. But I just need to tell this whole story because Ethan Phillips, which now everybody on the internet, his real name is not Ethan Phillips, but I think that's his son name. I'm under the impression it's hard here, like I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I want to think everybody's nice, but trust me, I've seen stuff now. I'll never be the same, I've unfortunately become an adult. So now it's hard for me to trust people. That being said, I did trust the tournament director, and he was telling everyone that his name was Ethan Phillips. I think, as I dissect this, I think his son's name was Ethan, and his name was Timothy, and I believe that, his plan ultimately, which he told me this, was to give this to his son. Like he was doing this for his son. And I think there's some stuff coming out about like Timothy, about, some stuff that got involved in the legal aspect of the law. The law is the law, but at the end of the day, things happen. Judging someone based on something that happened 20 years ago, I'm not trying to stand up for the guy. I'm just saying, I'm just putting out there, you can't just judge everybody by the law. Like somebody could get messed up and really change their lives. A lot of times they don't, but where I'm going with this is I truly do feel like these two guys were not they weren't bad people. There's good people and there's bad people. There's people that would take the shirt off your back and help you. You're stuck in a bog, you're going to go out there and try and help that person, whatever it may be. And then there's people that just walk around this earth and... Okay, so I'm not trying to stick up for these guys, but essentially there was this tournament organization, okay? The idea was it was $5,000 per tournament, $30,000 entry fees. So $30,000 a year, but the payouts were juicy, okay? The reason why I was fishing this is I love tournament bass fishing. I'm addicted to it. It's an amazing, amazing thing if you have ADHD and you love fishing, because it's more based on decisions rather than if the fishing's good. Like you're trying to develop a system on the water for that lake where you can like run areas and catch fish. A lot of times, sure, a tournament's won in one area, but a lot of times it's not. It's ran by running different areas at right times. Like you're rotating and trying to figure out what the best rotation is. Like it's like kind of like treating it like a guide trip. That's how I treat tournament fishing now. I want to go run my best spots to get my clients the best fish. Some guys wouldn't do that, but I'm always trying to get my clients the best fish. Where are we at here? Tournament organization, big. Team tournament, $100,000. First place, $250,000 plus a Bitcoin for the championship. These numbers are outrageous. I'm foaming at the mouth, not because I think I'm going to win this stuff. Everything's good. I'm talking to this guy all the time, and I think that's one thing that everyone else's story is kind of the same. I don't know how he had all this time to talk to everybody, but that's another thing that doesn't make sense. Here's my point about where I'm going down with this. I don't think dual threat fishing had the intent to scam. if you wanted to set up a scam, this was not a scam. And there's multiple reasons why this wasn't a scam. The first part was the entry fees, okay? If he would have collected the entry fees, and I think that's where he ran into a little bit of issues, was the entry fees, because he wanted to have 100 teams. And at one point I talked to him, I was talking to this guy frequently. I was really trying to help him out. Anything I ever had that happened to me with tournaments, like cheaters or weird disqualification rules or just weird drama, I wanted to tell him to try and have this thing be bulletproof, because I figured if this first season went well, this was just going to blow everything out of the water. Everyone was going to start watching this, because there's two actors in the boat now, or whatever you want to call it, but there's two characters. Sorry, that's better. There's two characters in the boat, so that's going to be more exciting. One of the rules is 2 GoPros have to be run facing the front and the back, so everything's going to be captured without a cameraman, so it's going to be way more organic. We're fishing for the same amount of money that the elites are fishing for. And what else? There were just endless things that were so good about this tournament series. And I'm always someone who wants to shake things up, When I see something, I'm like, let's go shake it up. Let's grab that maraca, hit the tambourine. And so, yeah, so I'm pretty excited. More getting to the chase of this whole thing, I'm very excited about what's about to happen with this whole dual threat fishing. So he says there's 87 teams at one point. This is like December probably. And he's asking me for my deposit, which at this point I'm like ice fishing. I'm all over the place, this, that, and the other thing. I finally get him my check. He gets it. He calls me and he says, I wrote the check for a year prior. Like I put 2025 or I put 2024, and it's time to pay up because there's entry fees, right? This whole time there's entry fees in the beginning. And one reason why the entry fees are good is it does wean out the people that are not serious. If you were to say, okay, there's a free tournament to win $100,000, you're going to get thousands of signups. But in professional bass fishing, up until a few years ago, every single one was like pay to play. All professional fishing was always pay to play. So you wean out the people that, aren't as serious. They're not going to fish all 6. They might just show up to their home lake, that sort of thing. So I thought the paying was fine. Obviously, saving $30,000 is amazing. Let's be real. But I was not opposed to paying. And I don't think most of the anglers that ended up fishing were opposed to paying, because everyone was under the impression that we were supposed to pay. Here's where it gets a little weird. So whatever, I sent him a check, my deposit, it's $9,000. And people were saying that that's weird to send checks. I don't know. I hate sending checks, but, dealing with contractors, dealing with suppliers, I'm wiring money a lot of times, but I'm also sending checks a lot of the time. Sending a check certified mail, it's all good. Sending checks is not a scary thing anymore, especially with today's banking system. It seems like fraud prevention is pretty good. Watch, after this video, I just get absolutely drained of everything. Okay, so I send him the $9,000 check. He tells me that I dated it wrong, that I dated it for June of 2025, so it's expired. I think that's kind of weird. Whatever. I sent him another check, so I sent him 2 $9,000 checks. Still think everything's good, Saying this out loud that I sent this guy didn't know $9,000. The thing about how when I write a check, I get into my bank account, I get a notification. I have to approve every single check, every single wire, any single withdrawal out of my account. I have to manually approve a second time. So I'm not worried he's going to cash both checks. I'm just like, I'm not worried at this point. That's the moral of the story. I'm not worried. The tournament's getting closer, and I can tell this guy is not prepared. But I kind of like that. I think that keeping it grassroots, keeping it like a Tuesday Nighter is hilarious. They should have been filming all of this stuff, because they were filming all this stuff, I'm not suicidal, okay? This shit is over my head. This is over my cap table. This is over anything I've ever worked for in my life. This is just, somehow I got myself involved in this, which I don't know how I did, but it's coming closer to the tournament. He's not ready. I can tell he's not ready. He doesn't know how to run a tournament correctly, he doesn't know how to run a tournament to this scale correctly. And when I'm talking about who this person is, I'm just going to refer to them as dual threat fishing, because it's a father and son trying to work together on something. And again, I'm going to say this again. I don't think they had intent to scam. I think that's a very important thing, is intent. when you're trying to prove something in the courts or when you're trying to prove something to someone else, you need to prove that there's intent. Because if there's no intent, the difference is just, that adds so much to the story. As you guys can tell, it's kind of hard for me to stay on a straight line because this story goes in so many multiple different directions. I really should have like a script here, but I'm going all this off the top of my head from something that happened about 3 weeks ago. Like everyone, you've watched all these people's videos. Everyone's like, the website sucks, this sucks, that sucks, da 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 da. And I'm like, good. I'm glad it sucks because when something sucks, you can make it better. When it's great, you can't make it better. So I'm just thinking, here we go. There's going to be some publicity. People are going to be talking. I'm just going to sit back and watch this thing unfold. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to even post that I'm fishing it. I'm just going to sit back and see if this was a good move by pushing some chips into the table here. All of a sudden, who am I fishing with? Oh, I'm literally randomly fishing somewhere. I think I'm ice fishing. Doesn't matter the context of where I'm fishing. I'm fishing, and I see somebody I know or something, or like he's in the industry, and we start talking, and then the guy's like, we end up talking about dual threat fishing, and he's like, hey man, that's super sick that it's no entry fee. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you don't have to pay entry fee. I'm like this guy's not fishing the tournament. This is just a random person in Chicago. And he's like, yeah, you don't have to pay entry fee. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, they just made an announcement. And I like look on the Facebook page and there's no announcement. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And then like I didn't look at the right page or whatever. And I just like brushed it off, I was like, this guy's just trying to mess with me. He's not being serious. And then like 3 days later, Dual Threat Fishing calls me and tells me that there's no entry fee. He's got a big sponsor. And at this point, I am very close to him, I feel like. Ethan or Timothy were in the room with me right now. I still feel like we could all be on the same team. And I feel like he was on the Anglers team. This is so complicated because of what I'm about to say. So he tells me that there's a guy in the oil industry. Whatever, oil. Everyone thinks that's a lot of money because we got to use it every single day. The oil industry is a scary industry. You need it. So he's in the oil industry, makes a lot of money. He's got a passion for fishing, or he's interested in the industry, one might say, at a small scale. And he wants to be a part of this. And he wants to pay the payouts for the whole season. So pretty much he's going to cover the payouts. There's going to be no entry fees. And then now Dual Threat Fishing can go out, invest in putting some time into finding sponsors, invest into some media. Like everything's taken care of now because there is an investor who wants to remain anonymous who is putting up just over $3 million to pay for all the entry fees. Because, it costs about $3 million to pay all the anglers out these 7 tournaments. And I'm like, cool. I truthfully do not think there's anything fishy about that because our tax system is so it kind of makes sense, right? I've studied this stuff and I'm a student. I love this. It's something that I'm obsessed with. So when it comes to the taxes, when it comes to what billionaires avoiding this, what politicians avoiding this, what companies avoiding this, I find it cool rather than upsetting. I'm like, okay, that's a rule. Cool. They figured it out. That's how I look at the system. And so I'm just thinking, oh, this guy, he's a boy. He's an old boy. He's got some money and he just wants to play. He wants to play in the fishing industry. I'm down for a little investment in the fishing industry. Sounds like a good idea to me. No red flags, no nothing, whatever. And this is where the intent to scam comes from. Because if this organization just would have collected everyone's entry fee who was willing to pay, none of this would have happened. So that's where I'm taking this stance that there was a plant that was planted into this industry that came and destroyed it from the inside to cause this whole conundrum. It was purposely done, and I just don't believe that what's being told is the truth. It's a feeling. There's some evidence. I don't know what you want to say about it. At this point, believe who you want. Just know that I don't care about any of this. Truthfully, I don't. Okay? I don't think that this guy's walking away with millions of dollars. Like, this now just screwed up his life. He's in hiding. His son's life is messed up. People are looking for any sort of little bit of details about his personal life. They're posting this, they're posting that on social media. Groupthink is now just like, oh my gosh, let's bury this guy. This is the biggest fraud in bass fishing, blah, 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 blah. And my stance is, It's a lot deeper than you think. If the organization doesn't have the people, the players' best interest in mind, it's going to blow up unless the organization does shady tactics to keep its power.